A very good morning to everyone gathered here today and to those watching remotely on whatever platform. General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi on 6 July 2025 concern a grave subject matter. The subject of the alleged infiltration of or exertion of undue influence on the criminal justice system. If the allegations are proved to be true, that spells doom for South Africa's criminal justice system. A healthy criminal justice system is key to the rule of law and in turn to a functioning constitutional democracy. With a criminal justice system that is populated by malleable and corrupt functionaries, many criminals, especially those holding positions of influence, will rarely, if ever, answer for their criminal deeds. Also, malleability, corruption, and dysfunctionality in the criminal justice system are at odds with what we, South Africans, expect of and are entitled to from a criminal justice system. At the center of any functioning constitutional democracy is a well-functioning criminal justice system. If you subvert the criminal justice system, you subvert the rule of law and constitutional democracy itself. The subversion of the criminal justice system may take any number of forms. Without purporting to be exhaustive, it may come as downright intimidation. It may consist in improper promises or inducements. It may take the form of corruptly influencing the decision-making or functioning of those responsible for the smooth running of the system. All these forms and others are a cancer to what a proper criminal justice system should be. Ours from today onwards is to investigate whether our criminal justice system is what it should be or whether it has been infiltrated by criminal syndicates. Words from us must end here, and we must start with the investigative process. Now I call upon the Chief Evidence Leader, Advocate Modau, SC.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, co-commissioners. Chair, perhaps the opposite place at which to start is the 6th of July, 2025, when Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, the Provincial Commissioner of Police in KwaZulu-Natal, convened a media briefing which has turned out to have some significance in that it prompted the President, His Excellency Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, to establish this Commission of Inquiry. And we know that from the media briefing, serious allegations of corruption, political interference, criminal infiltration within law enforcement and justice institutions were raised by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. And those allegations which he has raised will be examined openly and impartially in this commission. And at the outset, the one important point that one needs to emphasize is that the principle of impartiality signifies that the commission does not move from the premise that the allegations by General Mkhwanazi are indeed correct. It also does not move from the premise that they are not. It purely approaches the allegations with an open mind so that they can be tested with the relevant evidence that needs to support the allegations. And equally, in respect of people that are mentioned by General Mkhwanazi, those will have an opportunity to come before the Commission with reference to credible evidence to dispute, if they so wish, the veracity of those allegations. And Chair and members of the Commission, the purpose of this opening address, it is in part to outline in very broad terms what the investigation's purpose is about, and we'll touch briefly on some relevant provisions of the Commissions Act. And what we'll also do is very briefly allude to the allegations that the Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi referred to in his media briefing. And as part of that outline, we will also indicate a timeline of material events which will orientate both the Commission and members of the public to be able to contextualize the context in which the investigation is to be undertaken by the Commission. Chair and members of the Commission, the outcome of an investigation that will be undertaken by this process will have a bearing on, among others, whether there should be institutional reforms that are to be recommended to the President, and if so, what form or what kind of reforms should be recommended for purposes of the avoidance of any interference, infiltration, or corruption within the criminal justice system if the evidence points to its existence. And in order to locate the allegations that the Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi makes in their proper context, one needs to understand that a criminal justice system operates through three pillars. The first pillar is that of the police, which we know it will include law enforcement agencies such as Metro Police, that as the public will know, the terms of reference make specific reference to the Metro Police of Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, and the city of Johannesburg. Then the second pillar of the criminal justice system is that of the courts. And the courts, as we all know, they include both the judiciary and the NPA. The prosecutors play a very important role in terms of ensuring that cases that are referred to them by the police are assessed for purposes of prosecution. And we know the judiciary, which comprises both of judges and the magistracy, are supposed to preside impartially over those cases that are enrolled. And all of these come together for purposes of scrutiny flowing from the allegations that Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi makes. And to test out a few aspects that were made or were raised by General Mkhwanazi during the media briefing of the 6th of July, with reference to the three pillars of the criminal justice system, the media briefing highlighted in particular, and again at this juncture we need to emphasize the fact that what we are about to refer to, which is going to form the subject matter of this investigation, is approached purely on an impartial basis. the Commission has not formed a view, particularly in these early days, on whether there is truth in the allegations or whether these allegations are false. So in other words, that is the very reason why we have this Commission of Inquiry, to test these allegations. To go back then to the issues that were raised at the media briefing of the 6th of July, and those that are of particular importance that need to be tested is whether the Minister of Police interfered with sensitive police investigations and colluded with business people, including a murder accused, to disband the political killings task team, which is based in KwaZulu-Natal, and whether a Gauteng task team investigation which uncovered a syndicate ran by a drug cartel involving politicians, law enforcement, prosecutors, the judiciary, and business people was affected as a consequence of that alleged interference. And it should not escape any of us that if those allegations are true, they will erode and damage public trust in these very vital and crucial institutions. And for that reason, the truth, or rather the truthfulness of those allegations, needs to be proven, understanding the limited time within which the President has allocated the Commission to undertake its task. We are all aware that the task needs to be performed within a period of 6 months, and the urgency is one that all of us can appreciate. The criminal justice system continues to operate while the Commission is ongoing, and the delays will not assist the restoration of that public confidence in those institutions. And it is for that reason that the work of the Commission will be geared to producing a draft report within the first 3 months, as indicated in the terms of reference by the President, and hopefully to finalize the balance within the prescribed period, all things being equal. Then, the one aspect that is important to highlight and emphasize is Section 5 of the South Africa's Commissions Act, number 8 of 1947, which section stipulates that it is a criminal offense to obstruct the work of a Commission of Inquiry. That is an important aspect because it needs to be understood that the integrity of the investigations need to proceed unhindered. And in this regard, the Act makes it clear that any person who willfully hinders or obstructs a commission in the performance of its functions shall be guilty of an offense and would be liable upon conviction to a fine, imprisonment for up to 6 months, or both. And thus it is important that the Commission, again I stress, operates free of unlawful interference. Then in respect of the approach to the evidence, there are a few key issues that we need to emphasize. The first being that when the Commission investigates the allegations that were made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, the approach, as I've indicated, is that of impartiality, and it is one that presumes no particular outcome. And you will notice that I've been emphasizing this principle because of the heightened interest that the public has in this process. The need for thorough investigations, the need to offer the implicated persons a fair opportunity to respond to these allegations is an integral part that protects the integrity of the process. There will be 3 phases that are undertaken in this commission. And perhaps before I outline those, if I might just deal with the timeline of critical events, which I had mentioned earlier, from the prism of which the investigation will be undertaken. The first material date is July 2018, and that is when the Political Killings Task Team was officially launched. And what is important to understand about that is that there was an ad hoc interdisciplinary unit within the SAPS, which was tasked with investigating political killings, with an operational focus in KwaZulu-Natal that later extended nationally. Chair and co-commissioners, you will hear evidence. Sorry, Chair, I'm being asked to stop for a second so that the timeline can be projected.
Shouldn't
Yes. Should I just
please
proceed,
just
Chair?
proceed? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, after July 28, the next date of significance is June 2019, where the Political Killing Task Team adopted an integrated model where the Director of Public Prosecutions in KZN assigned a dedicated team of prosecutors to the task team, which resulted in the task team being a multidisciplinary team that incorporated prosecutorial guidance. Then the next event is the 17th of April 2024, where Mr. Armand Swart, an engineer in Vereeniging, was murdered. This high-profile assassination served as a catalyst for a wider investigation that would reveal far-reaching connections within the criminal underworld and expose insidious infiltration of law enforcement by criminal syndicates. 3 suspects were arrested at Q, in Bramley on the same day, including one Mr. Michael Puletau, Sub-Detective Branch, Johannesburg Central. And it is alleged that it is those 3 suspects that murdered Mr. Swart. The suspects were found in possession of firearms, which was linked to the murder. Then the next date of significance is the 30th of June 2024, when Mr. Senzo Mkhunu was appointed as the Minister of Police with effect from the 3rd of July 2024. Then we move to the 6th of August 2024, where a request was received for urgent safeguarding of the investigating officers of Swart's murder following Detective Tau's release on bail. Then, Chair and members of the Commission, the next relevant date is the 10th of August 2024, where one Katiso Molefe was identified as a person of interest in Swart's murder. Then 30 August 2024, there was a request for the task team members to assist Gauteng Organized Crime Unit with the investigation. The 10th of October 2024, 10 task team members arrived in Johannesburg to assist in terms of the request that I alluded to earlier. The 6th of December 2024 is the next material date, and on which the investigation team, assisted by the task team, conducted 2 operations for different reasons. The first being the takedown and arrest of Mr. Katiso Molefe and the execution of a search and seizure warrant at the property of Mr. Vusimuzi Ket Matlala. And part of what will be dealt with in the evidence is alleged political interference, which was noted by JMPD and DPCI during the said operations. And again, I must emphasize, these are allegations. 30 December 2024 is the next event. The task team's ballistic analyst compiled a ballistic report that linked weapons seized during the Swart murder investigation to 4 high-profile murders, including the murder of DJ Somebody, DJ Vintos, and the attempted murder of Debo Khotobejane. Then, on the following day, the 31st of December 2024, Minister Mkhunu issued a directive that the task team be disbanded with immediate effect. 27 January 2025 is the next date of relevance on which Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi appeared on EWN, where he made for the first time allegations of political interference and criminal infiltration in SAPS and in the criminal justice system. And on the 5th of March 2025, the General appeared before the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on the Police, where he repeated allegations of political interference and criminal infiltration in SAPS and the criminal justice system. Then on 26 March 2025, 118 under investigation dockets, which were being investigated by the task team, were handed over to Lieutenant General Sentumule on the instructions of Lieutenant General Sibia. The 2nd of April 2025 is the next material date, being the date on which Katiso Molefe's bail application was refused. Then we move to the 10th of April 2025. And on that day, 3 additional dockets, which were still under investigation by the task team, were handed over to SAPS head office on the instructions of Lieutenant General Sibia. And chair and members of the commission, you'll recall earlier on I spoke about the 118, and if you add these 3, that's how we get to the 121 dockets. Then on 13 and 14 May, we outlined 2 material events. On the 13th, Medicare 24 Tshwane District PTY's contract with SAPS was cancelled. And chair and members of the commission, this is the tender or the contract that had been awarded to Mr. Ket Matlala. 14 May, Mr. Ket Matlala was arrested. His cell phone records were obtained, or rather, if I may just correct that, cell phone records which were obtained from Mr. Matlala's phone, which was seized on 14 May 2025, pointed to political interference by the cartel in SAPS operations and the criminal investigations at different levels. So the material in the form of the contents that were found in Mr. Matlala's cell phone when it was seized following his arrest on the 14th is a critical event in answering the part of the questions that are posed in this commission. Then the 26th of June 2025, Lieutenant General Khumalo, the Divisional Commissioner, Crime Intelligence, and who's also the project leader of the task team, together with others, were arrested by IDEC for alleged fraud and corruption relating to an alleged unlawful senior appointment. Then the next material event is the 27th of June 2025, where Katiso Molefe's bail appeal was upheld and he was released on bail. The 2nd of July 2025 is the next event. And on that day, Lieutenant General Khumalo's bail conditions, which included a condition that he is not to enter any intelligence offices in the country, effectively precluded him as the head of intelligence from returning to work. Then 6 July is the reason why we are here. It is the media briefing by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. The 13th of July 2025, Minister Mkhunu was placed on leave. The 15th of July 2025, Lieutenant General Sibia was given orders to stay at home. And the 23rd of July 2025 was the establishment of the commission. So, Chair and members of the commission, these events, as I indicated, are quite material in serving as signposts and the context within which the evidence needs to be located and tested for purposes of veracity, credibility, etc. I earlier on indicated that the commission is going to be undertaken in 3 phases. If I can briefly highlight the first phase. During phase 1, the commission will begin by hearing comprehensive testimony from Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi himself as the originator of the allegations. He will be asked to detail his allegations in full and to present any evidence he has, either in the form of documents, communications, reports, etc. And one will understand why that is important, because utterances in a media briefing are just what they are. Those are just utterances and they're just simply allegations. So the purpose of the commission is to test with reference to reliable evidence, whether there is veracity or truth in those allegations. Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi will also be expected to name the individuals and the institutions that are involved. But the important aspect is that although 3 events have been mentioned where he made these allegations, you'll recall reference was made to the EWN interview. The second was the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, and the third being the media briefing. This commission is an opportunity for those allegations to be made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi under oath and to put them on record, subject, of course, to matters of safety that may necessitate that an application for some sensitive or confidential information that might compromise ongoing investigations to be held in camera. Chair, those applications, or that application, or those applications, perhaps I should put it in plural form, will be made before the commission if and when the need arises, and the chair will rule on those, depending on whether a proper case has indeed been made out to justify part of the evidence being heard in camera. And the significance of this is that transparency and openness is the default position. And hearings are intended by their very nature to be open to the public. But a fair balance needs to be struck between the interest of the public to access the entirety of the information and to hear the entirety of the evidence that is being presented, tested against or weighed against the work that is currently ongoing. It should be borne in mind that the criminal justice system is still functioning. Its work has not been halted on account of the establishment of a commission of inquiry. Thus, it is important that sensitive and confidential information that threaten the integrity of those ongoing investigations be borne in mind. And during this phase again, the Commission will also hear evidence from witnesses who will corroborate the allegations made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. These witnesses will include, but are not limited to, the National Commissioner, General Masemola, being the person to whom Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi was reporting. The evidence of members of the task team will be heard. Detectives involved in the investigations will testify. Prosecutors and other various experts will testify during this phase. And importantly, evidence will be led during this phase by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi to indicate the steps, if any, that he took internally and perhaps even externally to report these allegations prior to going public. In other words, are the three events prior to the media briefing the only ones, or are there additional steps that he took? And if so, what are they? How did he take those steps? With whom did he communicate? And did those people act on them or not? Then the next phase, which is phase 2, and in this phase, the Commission will proceed to rigorously test the evidence and, where applicable, assess rebuttals to the allegations presented in phase 1. And in this phase, phase 2, that is, individuals and institutional representatives implicated by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi and the statement and his evidence that he would have given, and persons such as the suspended Minister of Police will be invited, or if necessary, compelled to come and appear before the Commission and provide testimony. This phase is dedicated to objectively examining the allegations and allowing those named a fair opportunity to offer their explanation and to refute the claims made against them. Each will be called upon to address the specific matters relevant to their conduct, whereafter the Commission will evaluate the evidence having regard to the principles that guide how commissions operate in the interrogation of that evidence. And the last aspect to mention is that there would be cross-examination that is allowed during the second phase, because that is the testing of the allegations phase, for lack of a better description. Then the third and final phase of the hearings will be the phase in which the Commission will once again hear from Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. So he will be recalled. And during that phase, other key witnesses will also be called to address the perspectives and counter-allegations that is presented by those implicated during the preceding phases. This phase will provide Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi with an opportunity to respond directly to any conflicting accounts, clarifying points of contentions, and where necessary, offer additional evidence or context. And importantly, during this phase, should there be any aspects where it is clear that there are errors or omissions to make in respect of phase 3, it is to mention the point that it will allow the credibility of the version of General Mkhwanazi viewed against those that he is accusing and or that he would have referred to be interchangeably assessed and evaluated, given the last opportunity of reply that he has. Then, lastly, before the conclusions, Chair, the timeline, I've dealt with it slightly earlier. We know that in terms of the terms of reference, the President has stipulated that a preliminary report should be furnished to him in 3 months, hopefully with actionable recommendations that would come from the Commission. And it is important to then stress the agency versus the unlawful hindrance of the Commission's functions, because the repercussions of any of those steps will negatively impact the Commission's ability to meet the tight deadline that has been set out by the President. Chair, with that being said, and subject to two things that I'm going to mention, the Commission is ready to lead its first witness, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. And the two things that I was going to mention, Chair, is the first one is, may we request a brief 5-minute adjournment to allow the team to set up and for the General to come and take his place, to give that. And the second aspect, Chair, is I need to leave and to consult with other witnesses in preparation of the witnesses that are lined up. And if I may, please be excused, Chair, together with the juniors that we're working with.
Chief Evidence Leader, thank you very much for the opening address, and yes, you are excused. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the Commission.
Before we take the 5-minute adjournment, may I just announce the following. We will take a tea break at 11:30. That will be for 15 minutes, so it will be up to 11:45, and we'll break for lunch at 1 p.m. and resume at 2 p.m. And we will adjourn for the day at 4 p.m. From tomorrow onwards, hearings will commence at 9:30, and because of the earlier start, the tea break will be at 11 instead of 11:30. May we take the 5-minute adjournment